All right, here we are, Gym Teacher Dreams podcast. It's Thursday. For those who are paying attention, it's NBA panel Thursday. And once again, we have, of course, tag team partner Raymond. We have Coach Beinborn. And we have a new one. Is Mr. Tyler Mavius. He right now is like the Steve Martin SNL of the Gym Teacher Dreams podcast. He leads in the most appearances. So Tyler, welcome to the NBA panel. You'll bring a little younger view on it. Plus, congratulations on accepting a job, teaching job. So Tyler's all nice and relaxed. Look at him. If he hadn't got that, he might look a little stressed right now, sitting back, hat back, looking good. How are you, Tyler?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to see you guys. Hope you and your families are still safe. And, I'm excited.
Likewise.
I'm excited. I'm going to try to put my recency bias aside.
Well, that's going to say to our, Coach Beinborn is the coach at Augustana. Tyler is dating a former player at Elmhurst College who played Augustana, at least 8 times or whatever. And so, you guys play nice, and we'll be ready to go. I know it. You guys.
I have all love for Elmhurst. You know that. All love for Elmhurst.
Yeah.
All right. So for our listeners and our watchers, what we're going to do is we have today. We are going to. I've set up a tournament. That Ray and I have set up tournament, but today's tournament is going to be. NBA point guards. We're going to decide based upon a tournament who's the best NBA point guard. Now, as we know with tournaments, it can vary about matchups and this and that. So it'd be a great discussion when we get there on who is the NBA best point guard. So I've created a bracket. They have filled the brackets out, and we are going to have some discussion and decide who is going to advance.
Hey,
guys, anything to add with that?
Did you clear the bracket? Because I just opened mine back up and it was blank.
Well, with the initial, I wondered because that bracket came from someone who filled it out, and I tried to send a link that I was hoping that you could fill it out and then someone else could, but apparently it doesn't, because when I looked at the bracket at my place, I saw your bracket. So
okay.
So I do have a different one, but the problem is for this one you have to go from 1 to 64, and I had my tournaments, 4 1 seeds and this and that, so to transfer it over it takes a little bit. So with that being said, all right, I've got a lot of things going on I got planned today. So to start it off, we're going to go to Do You Believe in Magic region, as Magic is the
Look at this guy. I don't even know who he is anymore.
He is the #1 seed overall in the tournament. And let's get that tournament up. All right. Can you guys all see that?
Yep. I got to retire. I can't keep up with this. What? Dang.
I can't see you guys.
Look at you.
But I do here. So with that being said, the first matchup, we have Magic Johnson versus Avery Johnson. So obviously with #1 seed, Magic Johnson, everyone knows he is my favorite player of all time. So what do you think, guys? Is there any way Avery Johnson can pull off the greatest upset in tournament history? Tyler?
Not a chance. Magic, 100%.
Okay. How about Ray?
Well, Magic was the starting point guard on my all-NBA ever team. And if you snuck a peek at my bracket, then he advanced pretty far. I got Magic Johnson in this.
All right. How about you there, Mark?
Hey, I have no argument except for the fact that my starting point guard's not on here. That could have been the overall #1 seed. So other than that,
you know what? And that's one thing that I wanted to before we got started on the tournament was this: omissions, where they're ranked, because I just got a list and then I kind of moved them where I kind of wanted, and there were two people that I had to decide on whether they're point guards, whether they're small forwards, and one was obviously LeBron James, and the other one was Luka Doncic. So that was, as you make tournaments, that's what happens sometimes. And so, I will take some discussions on where people are seated. Do I need, because for you too, I want to put a book of tournaments together. I started wanting to do 365. I'm down to 100 where I'm going to publish a book of tournaments, a variety of stuff. And so, if I have to make changes, that's it. But you're right. LeBron's been playing point guard, especially this year, last couple of years. Luka has the ball in hands. So, yes, I agree. That was one thing be interesting to hear about. Anything else before we move on with the omissions or anything that you saw in the tournament?
Yeah. Is this from a certain time period to present day, like a certain year to present day?
It was more from when I was a youth until now. So, yes, like Bob Cousy and the Big O.
Okay.
Some of those guys aren't on because I've never seen them play. Now I know Tyler. Some of these guys, played before you were born. But I know that we've talked and you had a little bit of history because with your dad being our age, you would know some of them. So
Right.
All right. Thank you, Mark. That was a good point there. I forgot to talk about that.
You knew it was coming.
Of course I did. Of course I did. All right. So Matthew Johnson will move on. All right, the next one, as you can see, right in the middle, Stephon Marbury, Chauncey Billups. Let's go, Tyler. What do you think? This one obviously is the one right in the middle of everything, 32 and 33 seed.
Yeah, so this one was a tough one, and I actually went Chauncey Billups just because of the clutch factor. Hit some really clutch shots in the postseason. If you look, Stephon Marbury's career numbers are a little bit better. But because of what Chauncey Billups done, and he's a champion, I went with Chauncey Billups.
Damn, Gina. Ray, how about you?
I go Marbury just because I don't know. I back in the day I owned a pair of his shoes. Was it when Stephen Barry's? Was that this store that popped up just for a couple of years?
Yeah.
I think they sold the Starbury brand name or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I just went with that. I didn't look into the numbers or anything like that. I felt like he was more of a scorer. Chauncey Billups probably more of a facilitator, but I think he would just Marbury would just have a bit of a lead where maybe Billups wouldn't be able to make that last second shot that Tyler's talking about. That's where I was going.
Okay. How about Mark?
Chauncey, and it's Chauncey's a champion. Chauncey's a champion. I think that numbers-wise, and again, I think numbers are important, but numbers also can be inflated, deflated, based on who you're playing with, what you need to do, what kind of load you need to carry. And Stephon played on teams like that. I think Chauncey's, to me, one of the best leaders that I've seen as far as point guard leader. He defends. He hits big shot after big shot. Finals MVP. I think that he just has done so much, and he shoots the ball so well, but he was so unselfish. I honestly thought Chauncey would be a higher seed. I think he's probably undervalued in a lot of ways. So I went with Chauncey. And I also bought a pair of Starburys once. I'm not gonna lie, the knockoff Air Force ones.
Yeah,
I was hurting for money. Thought they looked like Air Force ones. Nobody would know.
And I too, Chauncey Billups was named Big Shot for a reason. So I too am going with Chauncey Billups. So that is 3-1. So Chauncey is moving on. All right, the next, we've got the 17, John Wall versus 48, Jamal Crawford. And I hope so. Ray, why don't you start this one?
Well, I go John Wall. Crawford obviously put up some numbers. He was a scorer, during his time. He might even still be playing. Is he still playing? He hung on forever, right?
Right.
Yeah. So good.
I almost need that bracket up there. But yeah, John Wall just I
just can't see you guys.
Maybe it's the recency bias. I just feel like he's more of an overall talent. But I'm the least of the NBA guys of the four of us, and probably if you put 27 guys together, I would be number 27. So but John Wall's where I go on this.
Mark, anything to add with this one?
No, John Wall is, again, tremendous. I would add just going back on what I said last time, I would take Chauncey over John Wall, just so you guys know that. But I think Jamal Crawford, again, we're going by point guard, right? Point guard. Who do you want running your squad?
Yeah.
I think Jamal Crawford is an incredible scorer.
Mhm.
You know, I look at the point guard spot as now you can score from the point guard spot, but are you a distributor? Are you a leader? Are you making your teammates better? And I think that's something that is valued at that spot. And I don't think Jamal necessarily played that role. That he was never really asked to. They just needed him to get buckets, and he was great at it. But definitely John Wall I would take over in this matchup.
Tyler?
Yeah, I'm going John Wall too. Obviously a great playmaker and a good defender as well. So that one was pretty easy for me. I'm going John Wall.
Yeah, I think, Crawford came off the bench, and he was one of those a lot of his career, and then he was that guy that, like Mark said, his role was to score. So he came in, had the ball in his hand. He was looking to score because that's what, sometimes they put, guys, especially on the second team, the guys that they need to score. So John Wall does move on. All right, two old school guys. Sleepy Floyd versus Mark Price. Mark, go ahead. Start.
I got Mark Price. I love Mark Price. He was, again, 80s basketball was a tough era to play in. Mark Price was not a big guy, but he attacked. He could shoot the lights out. I do think he uplifted his teammates and made teams around that Cavs team. If it wasn't for Jordan, just like so many teams in the 80s, that Cavs team was so good, and people don't realize how good they were.
Yes, they were.
So yeah, Mark Price.
Tyler?
Yeah, I went Mark Price as well. I had to do some research on these two because I've only heard of Mark Price because of the shot. So because of Michael Jordan, that's the only way that I had heard of Mark Price. So I talked to my dad a little bit, and he said Mark Price would be his choice. So I trust him, trust his opinion, so I went Mark Price.
Ray?
Tyler, save me from doing the math. What year were you born?
98.
98, okay. Yeah, I go Mark Price also. I don't know. I love, for whatever reason, I liked Sleepy Floyd back in the day. Maybe it was probably his nickname, and I don't know. So I feel like in my head this would be a closer matchup, but than the seeds would indicate. But I go Mark Price also, for some of the reasons that Mark had said. And Mark, last week, were you the one that brought up how Brad Daugherty was severely underrated, and like you said, because he was overshadowed by some of these other power teams. So yeah, I agree with what you said.
At that time. Yeah. You had Ewing, Olajuwon. Who else? All those centers, Robinson. Brad Daugherty was right there on that level. I think if he was in the NBA today, he might be one of the best centers, or the best center in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, those Cap teams was fun, and they're one of those teams that you look back, those damn Bulls, type of thing. But I love Mark Price. Sleepy Floyd, once again, he was, he could score. He could definitely score. But Mark Price was just overall better point guard, and that's a 4-0. All right, so we move down to the lower part of this region. Whoa, the wrong button there. So the first matchup had Kyrie, the 9 versus 56, Sammy Cassell. Ray, go ahead and give us a start on this one.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I'm changing my mind as we go here, again, based on some of the things that Mark said about, true point guard and the numbers not being everything. But I go Kyrie on this. But again, I feel like this is going to be a closer matchup than the seeds would have you to believe. But I go Kyrie. I think overall just a little bit too talented. But I don't know. I feel like Sam Cassell was a good point guard back in the day, but Kyrie's just on a different level, I think.
Yeah. I think the other two were not, and I agree. Kyrie, and you talk about leadership. He's just too good. I think Kyrie's just too good for Sam. Sammy won how many championships he won? He's won at least a couple, isn't he? I didn't check, but
I won twice with Houston, Boston.
Yeah. So, once again, he's been a coach, but Kyrie's just too good. Right? We don't have to go any further with that one. It's just tough matchup for old Sammy there.
Yes, and can I add something? Because, I like to throw out controversial things.
Yes.
If Kyrie was matched up with anybody else, not any, but almost anybody else on here, I probably would have had Kyrie losing. And my reasoning for that is I think Kyrie's amazing, but I think Kyrie needs to have a team like AI was built around, where he just doesn't have any other great players.
Yeah.
And he just gets to dribble and shoot all the time. They get offensive rebounds and putbacks or kickback to him, and he dribbles and shoots more. I don't think Kyrie's a great point guard. I think he's one of the best one-on-one scorers, best ball handler I've ever seen. He's incredibly gifted and incredibly skilled, but I would not want him running my team. But the problem is he came up against another point guard who I think was greedy and took bad shots and wasn't as good at Kyrie at it.
Yeah, I was, Kyrie ended up 9, but I'd be surprised if he goes too far. So the next one, we've got the 24, Jay Will versus Fat Lever. And I'll start here for this one. Jay Will, in my research, I didn't realize he averaged, barely over 2 turnovers a game. Now I know towards the end of his career he didn't play as much, but what he did for with the help me out, gosh, my brain's not working. Kings. The way, what he did with them was pretty special. I know, if it was a popularity, it'd be right there. Fat Lever, once again, another really good 80s guard, could score, was physical. So I'm leaning towards my brain's not working. I'm leaning towards not Fat Lever, but it is really close. So how about
Jason Williams?
I got to put it back up there. Tyler, go ahead.
So I actually went Fat. Now these were 2, again, I had to do some research on and kind of look at their numbers. And I found that their numbers were somewhat comparable, but from what I found, it sounded like Fat was a pretty good defender. And so I gave him the edge on defense for that. Obviously, I never watched either of them play, so I'm just going off what I could find on the internet. But I actually went with Fat Lever on this.
All right. How about Ray?
Well, see, Tyler, it's funny that you say that, because if you go to the internet, man, it just blows up with Jason Williams and his highlight videos. I would have thought that would have given you a lean to Jason Williams. In fact, I picked Jason Williams, but I grew up when Fat Lever and Alex English were doing it up in Denver, and it's just, that was a great era of basketball. I don't care what anybody says. That's Fat Lever and Alex English are 2 examples of that. In fact, the older guys on the panel here, you remember the old T-shirts you could get with like the 6-pack on it? Yeah, I don't know if I had Denver Nuggets one or if I wanted it, but I'll always remember that with Fat Lever and Alex English.
Yeah, I have my Lakers and my Bad Boys one, that's for sure. Mark, what do you got?
I got Jason Williams. Again, I think that the fact that what he did, you mentioned with the Kings, what he did with the Heat, in that run later even, the fact that his assist to turnover ratio was amazing, and this guy was throwing passes off of his elbow. And you got guys throwing 2-hand passes that are going, all over the place sometimes. His passing ability, I still think, exceeds 99% of the players ever in the league. His leadership, his toughness. I'm with Tyler on the fact that the one tough part was defensively. And I'm not saying he was an awful defender, but Fat Lever was way better of a defender than Jason Williams. But he could defend. He defended. He still was laterally pretty quick. He could contain guys. But his ability to push, create in the open court, knock down shots was unbelievable and so fun. I just think he's a guy that, too, would be fun to play with. That you have somebody that gets you the ball and it just kind of makes it, everybody out there is enjoying it. Well, you're going to play harder, see more success. I think Jason Williams brings that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm running the break. If he's got the ball, I'm running because I want the ball to find me. Yeah. So we were 2-2.
And I'm watching. If you're running, I'm watching.
I had to cheat, okay? I had to cheat, though. If I was going to get out in front of Mark and some of these other point guards, I had to cheat, okay? I saw who was getting rebounded, and I left early. So with that being said, it's 2-2. I guess I'm leading this.
3-1.
3-1.
3-1.
Oh, it's 3-1? I know what. Who'd you pick, Ray?
Jason Williams.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I tune you out most of the time. Sorry about that.
I know, it's okay.
All right, so J. Will did move on. And our next one, we've got Gilbert Arenas versus Steve Francis. I look forward to kind of hearing on this one. This is another tough one here. So I'll just ask, who wants to start this one? Gilbert Arenas and Steve Francis. Go. Ray.
Okay, I got Gilbert. Okay. I won't wait anymore. Gilbert Arenas, if his career was not stopped the way it was, Gilbert Arenas was on his way to be probably in this tournament, I think a 3 seed. The guy was flat out amazing as far as what he could do with the ball in his hands. He could score. He was so hard to guard one-on-one. I think he had, if you take what John Wall has speed-wise and athleticism, but give him a consistent shot and the ability to make big shots and just go off, that man, he was so dangerous, and he was so fun to watch. Steve Francis was a very good player, and I really liked him. But Gilbert just was on a different level, and it's one of those guys that I think you walk into the gym and you see you got to guard him, and you're already talking to your teammates like, hey, I'm going to send him to his left, be there to help me. I can't contain him by myself.
Other people do that? Because I've done that before. All right, Ray, you have anything to go against Mark?
No, nothing against him. And I don't have a lot of examples of either of these guys. My recollection of Steve Francis is, big score, kind of like Marbury, we were mentioning earlier. But I feel like Gilbert Arenas brought a little bit more to the table. And correct me if I'm wrong, Gilbert Arenas was kind of a thicker dude too, right? So in my head, I'm thinking a one-on-one matchup, he could back him down or overpower him, because Stephen Francis was a little bit tiny. So that's kind of where I was leaning on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're more, just remember, we're more about who you want running your team, not necessarily they're playing one-on-one. So
I have to go.
So, Tyler, and once again, before your time, what'd your research say? Because Gilbert was a baller. I mean, so was Steve Francis, but Gilbert was nasty.
Yeah, so I went with Gilbert Arenas, and one thing that really persuaded me was an NBA 2K, my team. He's one of the most lethal cards you can pull. The range he has, his release, and so that definitely persuaded me to picking Gilbert Arenas.
I love it.
Now that's research right there. I love that.
All right, then the next one, Derek Fisher versus Isaiah Thomas of the Pistons. He's a 2 seed. So Isaiah Thomas, Derek Fisher.
Well, see, what you had just said kind of sways my vote now, because I don't know if I want Isaiah Thomas running my team. And this is a tough matchup. Derek Fisher, he did a lot of good things in his career. None of them probably were, as highlighted as Isaiah Thomas. But now in the light of The Last Dance and how poorly the Bad Boys came off, and I had kind of forgotten about that game where they just walked off the court and didn't shake hands. And Isaiah just looked like a punk bitch as he walked off the court. And that just leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. Horace Grant said it best. And did you see there's already T-shirts now?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So I'm going with the upset then. Who do I want leading my team? Derek Fisher more than Isaiah Thomas.
All right. Tyler.
Yeah, so I actually went Isaiah Thomas. Michael Jordan came out and said that he was the second best point guard to ever play the game. And if the greatest of all time is saying that, then I'm obviously going to side with him. Now, if he was on my team, he absolutely would be shaking hands after every game, and he'd be acknowledging the other team. So I definitely have to make sure I instill that into his head that if he was going to play for me, that's what he'd be doing. But I'd have to take Isaiah Thomas over the talent and his production over his career.
Yeah, Isaiah, like I said, he was a punk, but that one playoff game where he got hurt, and he still played, hobbled, and just killed it that game. He was the leader of the Bad Boys. So some of him, he is kind of he comes across kind of an arrogant even now, but if he's a leader of the team and he's portraying you got to be the bad boy, that might be some of what he did, but for sure he was pretty damn good. Mark, Anything to add?
No, I mean, Isaiah takes this. I think that some great points were brought up, though, with Derek Fisher, I think, but Isaiah Thomas was still a great leader. I think that his character can definitely be questioned. Even now when he's talking about some of these things, he's always backpedaling, and it's about him. And but he was a great leader on that team. I think, agreed, he's probably a top 4 point guard to me ever. And let's be honest, most great players have a little bit of arrogance. Michael Jordan is as arrogant as anybody. He might be more arrogant than Isaiah, which is why they don't get along. So, I'm not going to take it away from that. And don't forget it does matter that when the Pistons beat the Celtics, that Larry and all those Celtics walked off the floor, which is what prompted those Pistons to do it. And nobody ever brings it up and hates Larry and says, well, Larry's not any good anymore, or he's this. It was a competitive spirit. It was. I don't agree with it, Tyler. I kudos for saying he would shake hands if he played for me, which yes, I would agree. But that was a decision they made that maybe they regret. Lambeer doesn't, which is what I love about him. But Isaiah Thomas, phenomenal.
Now,
all right.
What's the sports show where it's like this 4 people on a panel and someone gets muted and all that? I know I'm going to get muted, and I'll take my L right now. But a couple things I do want to say. It wasn't necessarily the arrogance factor, but I look at him as like a pipsqueak. They even said this in The Last Dance. He started these fights, and then, like you said, Mark, he was backpedaling out of town and letting Lambeer and Rodman, John Sally, defend him. And I've always hated those kind of people. Another thing, no one mentioned that Isaiah Thomas ran the CBA into the ground, okay? And I'm still bitter about that, too. So, I mean, there's a lot more to this. But anyway, that's fine.
Just like The Rock says, know your role.
Yep.
All right. So that is Magic Johnson. Do you believe in Magic era? I'm sorry, region.